So, if you remember what we've been talking about a lot about New York State recently, correct?
Yeah, I remember.
So, one thing that we haven't talked about yet is the Hudson River. Alright, so we're going to start with PCBs. Now, PCBs is a short term for polychlorinated biphenyls, which is the chemical term for the name. So it's very, people say PCBs because it's tough to remember polychlorinated biphenyls. Yeah,
Okay.
most
All
people
you have to
won't.
remember is PCB.
We wouldn't expect you to remember that.
I can do that.
So, the first one here is what are PCBs, and it says that they are the most serious environmental contaminant of the Hudson River. Now, that's a big important thing because the Hudson River used to be very contaminated. And it still is, but it's mainly because of PCBs. Now, they have extremely high boiling points, and they were used a substance that were used in electrical companies by many companies, and they were used as heat transfer fluids in transformers. They are actually in the top 10% of EPA's most toxic chemicals, so they're a really big deal. So anything we can do to stop them would be really good. And we have here that they are so bad that there are limits on the amount that you can have in your food. So, and PCBs go all the way through the food chain. They get into the water and it's eaten by algae and small fish, which, as you could assume, survival of the fittest. They get eaten by other fish, which get eaten by other fish, and we actually start to consume them. And as they get eaten, they get bigger and bigger, and the amount of PCBs gets stronger and stronger, which can really do damage to us once we eat those fish. At that point, it has fully evolved and gotten worse and worse, so it's going to be very harmful to us. We looked into different countries that have PCBs, and we found that there are different factories, like electrical companies, that use PCBs in different countries. So we have a couple examples. We have right here, this is the Cafaro industry in Italy. This is the Bayer Corporation in Germany. This right here is the symbol for Kanegafuchi, the chemical company in Japan. And then this is Protolec in France. And then there's actually word that they still use PCBs in Russia. So now what Connor was saying before about how it's really hard to find PCBs or notice them, we're going to talk about that right now in our first station. So, what we're going to have you do, take this, don't look at it yet. And now going back to station 1, you had the first ones, right? And they look exactly the same. Yet when you looked at it, substance A was just regular water, so that makes sense. But substance B was vinegar. Now, if you smelt it like you knew you wanted to, you would know that. But just by judging the color of it, you would never be able to tell. And then when you poured these two in, they both looked a little different. Let's do it again just so I can show you. So this one, you poured in the water, and we know that's regular water already. And then when you pour this in, it looks a little different. But in this case, we are going to have you smell it. Like this one's a little cloudy. So when you smell it, they smell the same, right? They don't have any smell. They both smell exactly the same, like water. This one is actually salt water. So, as we talked about before, PCBs are both odorless and colorless. So the odorless of the salt water and the colorless of the vinegar, you combine that and you get PCBs, which shows how hard it is to figure them out. Okay? So what would you say you've learned today?